get started here on week 4, and this is exciting. Week 4 is an exciting week to get started with because you're going to pull together everything that you've been doing in weeks 1, 2, and 3. And so basically, you're going to be making a lesson plan where you're going to be using technology, and we'll go into details about that. But that's the big thing that's going to happen this week. And a friendly reminder: our class ends on Saturday. Officially ends on Saturday at midnight. So all assignments need to be in by Saturday at midnight, as per NU policy. Unfortunately, late assignments will not be accepted. The discussion board is, as usual, your initial post needs to be posted by Wednesday, and your 2 follow-up posts to classmates, of course, then would be on Saturday. So speaking of that, I just wanted to jump over and talk about the discussion board really quick here. The week 4 discussion board is where you get an opportunity to get feedback from your classmates. So what's going to happen on week 4 is you're going to brainstorm and put some ideas that you have for your technology-based lesson plan, and you post it on the discussion board, and gets an opportunity to get feedback from your classmates and also to get some ideas. So again, so that's for the week 4 discussion board. Okay, so as we've been mentioning, you're going to be making a technology integrated lesson plan with a rubric. And before we get into the nuts and bolts, what needs to be in your lesson plan, I wanted to draw your attention to the rubric part of it. So you're going to be making a rubric, and you're going to be posting on there. For your convenience, there's RubyStar is a free online software program specifically for teachers that you can access. I want to open it up for questions. Has anybody used RubyStar before? Have you used this program before? How to create a rubric using RubyStar? While I give you a minute to kind of look through that and respond, looks like most folks haven't had a chance to look at RubyStar before, haven't had the pleasure of working with RubyStar. And I do say pleasure because it's, number 1, it's free. That's pretty neat. And 2, it's specifically made for teachers. And what this is kind of a shareware program where there's a whole bunch of rubrics, and I'm here on the main page where you get a customizable rubric from below, and you can download one of these and edit it and make it lined up to your own projects. So as you continue, kind of like web quests, like we talked about previously, when you make web quests, then they become part of the collective, and then other folks can download them and adapt it. So it's just a giant database of rubrics that exists here, and then you open them and you edit it. And just kind of want to take a moment to talk about it. It's pretty straightforward. What happens is you create your own account with it, and it's free, and you can use a work email if you don't want to get bombarded with spams. And not that I've seen spam from it, but I know we all should be leery about giving out our personal emails and this and that. But anyway, so you create an account, and then you can create a rubric from scratch, or you can find one that's along the lines of what you want, but of course you need to adapt it and make it lined up to your lesson plan exactly. So anyway, that's just wanted to draw your attention to that kind of backwards planning and show you where we're headed with rubrics. Okay, so back on point here. So you're going to be making a technology integrated lesson plan, and what would be easier, I believe, is if I come over here to the example. You can follow along if you want to. I'm going to open up the example that I posted here, and this kind of helps to give you an idea what we're looking for. All right. Key point here as we go along is don't forget to include the 2 sets of standards. One standard is your technology standards. As we've spent a lot of time this month going over them, so I'm sure you're pretty familiar with them. But specifically, don't forget to specifically address your technology standards for the students, what technology standards your students are going to address. And then the other ones are your content area standards, and if you can use your state. In California has robust. If you're from California, you can use that, or any other state standards where you're from, or if you're somewhere that doesn't have state standards, you can use national standards. But point is, there need to be content standards here. It's just a friendly reminder, don't forget to include those. And you also include what technology and software programs. Don't forget, if your students have the Chrome netbooks, or if you're taking the computer lab, or you're using Smartboard, or whatever it is that you're planning to use, including the software programs, include it all here. Every bit of technology that you plan to use, identify it here in this section. Okay, other than that, it kind of reads like a typical lesson plan where you talk about your prerequisites, and this is just in general where your lesson, where it comes in the grand scheme of things. So what students have already done, what they already need to know and be able to do before they take on your lesson. Vocabulary words, pretty straightforward, list them out, but vocabulary words that they would need that they will need to do your project with. Materials, pretty straightforward, normal stuff. Okay, this part right here where it goes about goals and objectives. If you will please type in there the message box what your understanding is the difference between a general goal and performance-based objective. What's the difference? Okay, seeing some good responses here from students. Brittany talks about general. Goal is like a unit. Francis talks about general expectations. Brittany further explains specific performance would be application of knowledge on a project or test. Jordan's honest, she's not sure. Okay, good points there. And Francis and Brittany, you're on point there. General are your goals. Like your general goals, you're hoping that will happen. I see Karen typed in here, specific performance-based objectives, something that can be measured. Karen, you just won the award. Karen's spot on point there. Something that can be measured. Totally right. So with Karen's explanation, good job on that. On the specific performance-based measurements, I need to be able to see that it's quantified in some way. Percents, number correct, the amount that should be completed. This example here, I believe, did a really good job of describing exactly what the teacher expects to see, what the students have completed. So quantify it in some way. There needs to be numbers there. There needs to be percents. It needs to be quantified. Whereas your goals are just like that. Those are just kind of general in nature. So I just want to make sure everybody kind of had an understanding on that when you come to that point. Anticipatory sets, pretty normal. It's the lead-in activity, kind of like a warm-up. Another way of thinking about that is like your warm-up activity. And then your step-by-step procedures, like it sounds, it reads like a recipe. Day one, step one, it breaks it down. This needs to be like really clear what you intend to have students do. And because this is a project-based, it can absolutely, I would expect it to be over multiple lessons. It would not necessarily be done in one lesson. This could take, like this example, took 5 days. And in that, this is where you bring out the pedagogy part, where we talked about this going to have the tech pack in week 1. We talked about that the technology integrated lesson plan needs your tech pack. Some quick quiz here. Who remembers what the acronym for tech pack was? That was when it was on the Venn diagram early in our chapters, and we talked about that. So what is the tech pack? What are the 3 components that need to be in a technology integrated lesson plan? Okay, honest. Francis isn't sure. It's honest about that. The tech pack, there's the T, the technology, the pedagogy, and the content. Those are the 3 parts of it. And so the technology part, the question that we need to ask ourselves is, can the assignment be done without technology? And if the answer is yes, then that's not a technology integrated lesson plan. The technology has to be a very key, important part of the lesson. It has to be something that the students would not be able to do the lesson unless they had technology integration. some examples of that. I saw, was reading their discussion boards from week 3, and some really good examples. Folks in there were talking about virtual field trips. Some folks were talking about simulation programs, a web quest. I saw at least one student, maybe more, were thinking about using web quests. Another student was talking about having students create iMovies. So those are some examples of using technology that the technology is front and center. It's really a big piece of the lesson plan. Some minor things would be having students play games. That's like they're almost taking a passive role in it. Or having students, the teacher, create a PowerPoint and present it to the class. That's a good use of technology, but that's not students integrating with technology. Students are viewing it, they're passively being an observer of watching a PowerPoint presentation. Or if a student, or I'm sorry, if a teacher played a YouTube video, and although that can be very relevant and very important to the lesson, students aren't really interacting with it, they're just being a passive recipient of the information. So just kind of wanted to touch base on the technology part. It has to be a really robust piece of it. Okay, the pedagogy, that's the how you're going to teach. How are you going to teach the lesson, the how-to? And that's where it brings me here, where there's going to be a guided practice part. And this is just where, from our readings from from weeks 1 and 2, we talked about the foundation of education technology, and that's where the transition from the teacher being the front and center, we call them the sage on the stage, where the teacher was front and center and delivered all the information, where with technology integration, the teacher slides into facilitator role, where students are interacting with the technology, researching information, creating, developing, analyzing those types of robust parts of the experience, and so it moves into more guided practice. And so, of course, that would be a very important part of the pedagogy piece. If you're making a technology integrated project, is that the students are indeed working independently. That could mean working with partners by themselves or in groups, but they're working, learning the information on their own through guided practice. So that's why this part is in here, and just make sure that when you fill that out, it's talking about how students are interacting with the technology. So that piece is there. And then your lesson extension, and of course when you are facilitating the lesson, that means students are going to work at different speeds. Some students are going to blast through it and get through it super easy and put amazing quality work together. They're going to need some extension. So so identify how you're going to provide some support for those students, as well as adaptations for students with learning disabilities or English language learning challenges, some way that you can modify or adapt. So that's just good lesson planning anyway. I'm sure as you make lesson plans, you're used to doing that. But I just wanted to draw your attention to keep an eye on that as far as with the technology integration. All right. So the independent practice, of course, you've got to identify where the students will be working on their own, not with the teacher helping them, but what they'll be doing by themselves. Normal stuff, reflection, anticipatory set. That's normal lesson planning stuff there. And here you're going to copy and paste your rubric so that you made on RubyStar. You're going to copy and paste. So what I want to talk to you now, you kind of see what the rubric is going to look like when you paste it on there. What I want to draw your attention is that the categories of your rubric, these little guys here, these need to tightly line up with your specific outcomes that we talked about. You've got your goals and your outcomes. These need to line up, vice versa, so that the students could look at your rubric as a type of checklist so that they would know exactly what you're looking for. And kind of like what I tried to model in this class, where I pasted the rubrics for you to see what exactly I'm going to look for when I grade your assignment. This would be the same thing here. So everything that you think is important that you want with the assignment, identify it here, and so students can use this as a checklist. Okay, so that's kind of the overview of our project. And I'm going to open up for questions. Okay, Brittany's asking, can we make up a lesson for any grade? Absolutely, we sure can. Okay, folks, I'm going to go over the second assignment that's due this week. And of course, you can always type in questions as we go along. The second part of this week is you're going to do a post-lesson analysis. And a tip that I would recommend is you kind of eyeball this document before you begin your lesson plan, or look at it, refer to it back and forth, so that it kind of help guide you of what you need to include in your lesson plan. And the grading rubric for this indicates that you need to have a variety or multiple choices from each of these categories. And so I take multiple to mean 3. You can have 3 or more. So you get at least 3. So provide options for perception. Include at least 3. So you would include all 3 of these. Offer ways of customizing the display of information. Offer alternatives for auditory information, etc. So be thinking about those as you're making your lesson plan, how you can go about these. And you would review this link up here, Universal Design for Learning Guidelines. So you click on that, and it will give you examples and clear details on each of these prompts. And so if you're reading through some of these prompts and you're not understanding what it's asking you or what does it mean, refer back to this link. Universal Design for Learning Guidelines is really a user-friendly document. You click on it and go through and find the areas that you're not real sure on, and find more information there. All right, Frances types in she'd like to do a lesson on iPhone or Google app for planning, scheduling homework assignments. Okay, I'm intrigued about this. Can you give me a little bit more information? Okay, Frances writes, many of my students do not keep track of their homework assignments. Okay, so my next question would be, which state content standards would that be? And I can definitely see where you can align that project with the ISTEs, the Technology Standards for Students. I'm not really sure where that's falling under for content for your pedagogy. So which state standards are you feeling that would fall under? Brittany writes, I would like to ask my students to sell a vacation to a country their audience know nothing about. I want to ask them to create a PowerPoint or a nice detailed brochure to convince someone to travel this place. That's perfect, Brittany. Great idea. That's a perfect example of a project there. Francis, I tried to tell them to use a paper planner, but they wanted to use their phones. Okay, back, Francis, good point there. So you've identified a need. That's good, and just wondering where that aligns up with the state standards. So it would be, don't forget the content needs to be included in there. Brittany says this would be a lesson for 5th and 6th graders who are studying ancient cultures. Brittany, you're on point. I like it. Your lesson looks good. All right, so that's pretty much it for this evening. I will stay on to answer any individual questions, but basically, I think everyone's got a pretty solid understanding what's our plan. You're going to make a technology integrated lesson plan. Post your brainstorm ideas on the discussion board for this week, and that's way you can get feedback from your classmates. And of course, that's due by Wednesday. Friendly reminder: everything is due by Saturday. And as always, you can email me, text me if you've got any questions. Again, thank you so much for joining me, and it has been an absolute pleasure working with you this month. Have a great evening.